Okay, ready to dive into a real puzzler. Disney's Hercules.
Interesting choice.
You guys sent in a ton of stuff. Production notes, articles comparing the movie to the real Greek myths, even some deep dives on the gender dynamics. Seems like everyone is kind of baffled why this one didn't become a mega hit like other Disney Renaissance movies.
Yeah, we all remember those songs. But the box office numbers tell a different story, right?
Exactly.
One essay I read called it a beautiful hot mess.
That's pretty accurate.
It argues that the movie has all these influences that don't really work together, and they compare it to Emperor's New Groove, which did blend comedy and mythology really well. So did Hercules try to do the same thing but just miss the mark?
Interesting. Emperor's New Groove definitely nails the comedy.
Yeah.
But Hercules feels like it's trying to do way more. Like you get superhero vibes.
Right.
The training montage is straight out of Rocky.
Yeah.
And then you have all those product endorsements, kind of like Michael Jordan.
It's funny you say that.
Was that intentional by the filmmakers, or did they just throw a bunch of ideas together?
Well, it was more deliberate than you'd think. The filmmakers actually saw Hercules as, like, a modern sports star,
Yeah.
with the fame, the money, all the merchandise.
Wow.
So they were trying to comment on celebrity athlete culture, which I find fascinating. But the essay does question whether all those influences end up hurting the movie.
Makes sense. It's almost like they're trying to be too many things at once. Superhero epic, sports underdog story, and a satire of celebrity. Maybe that's why audiences felt a bit confused.
Yeah, maybe. It's like trying to cram all the gods onto Mount Olympus.
And with all that going on, did they lose that strong emotional core?
Right, exactly.
The essay argues that the humor, while it's funny, it sometimes undercuts the serious parts. Like, remember when Meg almost dies?
Oh, absolutely. That scene was intense.
It's jarring to go from Hades cracking jokes to that sudden moment of danger.
Yeah, totally throws you off.
Which brings us to another point the essay made, that whole chosen one narrative.
Oh, yeah.
Is it saying it's overused?
Not really, no. It's more about how they use it in Hercules. The argument is that his importance hinges on a prophecy he doesn't even know about, which, removes his agency.
I see.
Instead of choosing his destiny, he's just fulfilling something that's already been decided.
So it's more of a plot device than actual character development.
Right. And the essay compares this to other chosen one stories, like Buffy, Avatar, or Harry Potter, where the characters actually grapple with their destinies, make tough choices. Does Hercules have that same inner conflict?
That's the question, isn't it? Is he actually choosing to be a hero, or is it all just fate?
Exactly. The essay dives deep into his wants versus his needs. He wants to find where he belongs. But his need is to be selfless, a true hero. But are those things connected in the story?
Good point. In other Disney movies, like Aladdin or Emperor's New Groove, the main character's internal growth is really tied into the plot.
Yeah.
Their wants and needs drive them forward. So is Hercules missing that?
It's possible. If his heroism feels more like an obligation, less of a choice from the heart, maybe that's why people didn't connect with him as much as other Disney characters. And this is where it gets interesting. The essay actually suggests that Megara might be the more complex, more compelling character.
Ooh, I love Megara. I won't say I'm in love is such a good song.
Totally. You sent in a scholarly article that dives even deeper into her character.
Oh, right. What does it say?
It points out how she breaks the mold of your typical Disney princess.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely not your typical princess. Tell me more.
Well, she's sassy, she's independent, and she's got, a past.
Right.
She's almost like a villain at first, remember? Not your damsel in distress.
Totally different from waiting around for a prince to save her. She even sacrifices herself to save Hercules, remember? Pushing him out of the way of that falling pillar.
Yes. So heartbreaking, but so heroic.
Really raises the stakes.
The article argues that her selflessness really turns those traditional Disney gender dynamics upside down. You have the woman embodying heroic qualities we usually associate with men.
So she's challenging our expectations of what a Disney heroine can be. It seems like Hercules might have been ahead of its time in the way it plays with gender roles.
Absolutely. And this leads us to a really crucial moment. Hercules choosing love over going back to being a god.
That's huge. He literally gives up his powers to be with Meg.
Exactly. And the article suggests this is like a radical move for Disney. It challenges traditional masculinity, saying that love and connection can be more fulfilling than power and ambition.
That's a bold statement, especially for a Disney movie back then.
Right. But the question is, does the essay see this as a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm curious to hear what they say.
Well, they wonder if maybe it's too radical. Could it be that Hercules' lack of ambition, his willingness to give up godhood, actually made him less appealing to audiences who are used to seeing powerful, dominant heroes?
So are you saying that his rejection of power could have actually turned some viewers off?
Maybe. Especially in a genre where stories are usually about achieving greatness and beating your enemies.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Makes you think about what we expect from a hero.
And this leads to a bigger discussion about gender dynamics and how Hercules fits into the larger world of Disney movies.
Oh, I'm definitely interested in that. What does the article say?
It suggests that those mixed messages about gender in Hercules maybe influenced the Disney movies that came after. They compare Megara to the princesses in Tangled and Frozen.
Oh, interesting. Rapunzel and Anna definitely have spirit, but they do fit into that classic princess mold in a lot of ways.
Exactly. And then you have Maui in Moana, the demigod with that giant fishhook. He's not afraid of being masculine.
Uh-huh, yeah. He's got that big, boisterous energy.
The article suggests that Maui, with his love for adventure and classic hero swagger, could be a response to Hercules rejecting power.
So are we saying that because Hercules didn't do as well as they'd hoped, Disney went back to a more familiar, super masculine hero?
That's the question the article asks. Did Disney, maybe without realizing it, shy away from these more complex ideas about gender in later films? Did Hercules bombing at the box office lead them back to more traditional princes and princesses?
Woo, that's a lot to think about. This seemingly simple Disney movie is turning out to be pretty complex.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I can't wait to hear what else we uncover.
Me too. It's been a fascinating journey so far.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Hercules. Last time we were talking about how Megara is different from other Disney princesses.
And she's not the only one. What about those gospel-singing goddesses, the Muses?
Oh, yeah.
They bring so much energy and humor.
They totally steal the show.
Right.
But they're more complex than they seem.
Okay, how so?
Well, they're not just sidekicks, right? They're powerful. They're narrators. They give us this unique perspective on everything that's happening. Yeah, it's like they're our guides through the story. Plus, those musical numbers are iconic. Zero to Hero, come on.
Absolutely. And those songs aren't just there to be catchy. They move the plot forward, give us insight into the characters.
And we can't forget, they're all women of color, which was pretty groundbreaking for Disney back then.
Such a good point. You've hit on something really important about representation, especially considering Disney's history, But that scholarly article you sent in, it raises some questions about how they're portrayed.
Oh, okay. What kind of questions?
Well, it acknowledges the importance of diversity, right?
Right.
But it points out that the Muses are still kind of relegated to supporting roles. They're there to guide Hercules, inspire him, but they don't really have their own stories, their own ambitions.
So even though they're powerful, they're still there to serve the male protagonist.
Yeah, basically. And the article argues that this reinforces a trope we see a lot, not just in Disney movies. Women of color supporting and uplifting others instead of being the center of their own narratives.
That's a really important point. It's not just about including diverse characters. It's about how you portray them, what roles they get to play.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, how can Disney do better? How can they move beyond just tokenism and create stories that truly focus on the experiences of these characters?
Totally agree. We need to see those characters driving the action, going after their own goals. Speaking of defying expectations, let's get back to Hercules choosing love over godhood.
Yeah, that's a huge moment.
Right.
And the article really gets into what that choice means. It argues that it's a total departure from your typical Disney prince.
Okay, I'm listening. How so?
Think about other Disney princes. They're often driven by ambition, a need to prove themselves, like Prince Eric in The Little Mermaid sails off to find Ariel.
Right.
Prince Philip in Sleeping Beauty fights a dragon to save Aurora.
Yeah.
And they get rewarded with both love and power.
Right. They get the girl in the kingdom.
Exactly. But Hercules, he walks away from all that. Gives up godhood for love.
Chooses a simple life with Meg over power and glory.
Right. And the article says this challenges traditional masculinity.
Interesting.
It's like Hercules is presenting a more feminist perspective on what it means to be a man. He's not afraid to be vulnerable. He prioritizes connection over dominance.
It definitely goes against that classic hero narrative.
And the article connects this to the film's production. Remember how the filmmakers were inspired by celebrity athletes and endorsements?
Right. Hercules is the Michael Jordan figure.
Yeah. The article suggests that maybe because they were looking at this world of fame and power, it actually led them to explore different ideas about masculinity.
So they're inspired by this world, but ultimately tell a story that goes against those values.
Kind of. Maybe they realized the traditional hero's journey, ending with all that power, wasn't actually satisfying.
And instead they focused on love and connection, which is powerful in its own way.
Absolutely. And this choice, while maybe radical for its time, could reflect changing values in society, don't you think?
Yeah, values that put relationships and empathy above individual ambition. I love that.
Makes you think that Hercules, even with the jokes and the music, is asking some pretty deep questions.
Right. Questions about what it means to be a hero, what power really means, the importance of love and connection.
It's like those classic Greek myths. Yeah, they're about gods and monsters, but they're also about human nature.
Exactly. And I think Hercules taps into that, uses this familiar Disney story to explore what it means to be human, what really matters.
I like that. Hercules is more than just a fun movie. It's a story about gender, power, the human experience.
Totally. And that's what makes it so fascinating. It works on multiple levels.
It's like one of those optical illusions. You see one thing at first, but then you change your perspective and bam, something totally different appears.
Yes. That's what art can do. Challenge our perceptions. Help us see the world in new ways. And Hercules, with the animation, the humor, the characters, it definitely does that.
It takes us to this fantasy world, but it also reflects our own experiences, our struggles, our triumphs, love, growth, and that's why people still love it. It speaks to our fascination with myths, our desire for connection. It helps us find meaning in a world that can feel pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
It reminds us that even when things are tough, we can choose our own path, fight for what we believe in, make a difference.
And it changes how we think about heroes. True strength isn't about brute force or power from the gods. It's about compassion, selflessness, following your heart.
Powerful messages for a Disney movie, right?
Right.
It shows how talented the filmmakers were, how much vision they had, took this classic myth, made it fresh and relevant.
Entertained us, inspired us, made us think, all in like an hour and a half.
Amazing. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the villains. Hades is definitely a standout, right? Those one-liners, that temper, that blue hair.
Oh, he's iconic.
But the essay brings up a concern about how his villainy, and pain and panic too, connects to a problematic trend in Disney movies.
Oh, okay. What's the connection?
Well, they argue that Hades being so over-the-top flamboyant and pain and panic with their kind of feminine mannerisms, it reinforces a stereotype about gay men.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It plays into that gay villain trope, which we've seen way too often.
Right, it's like saying being gay is somehow bad or wrong.
Exactly. And even though it's played for laughs, it can contribute to homophobia in the real world.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially for young people who are figuring themselves out. It tells them it's not okay to be who they are.
It's really harmful. Disney needs to be more responsible, tell stories that reflect the real world in a positive way.
Totally agree. Representation is important, but it's also about fighting those stereotypes, promoting understanding. And unfortunately, the essay points out another issue with the villains, the feminization of evil.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Remember when Pain and Panic dress up as a female horse to trick Pegasus?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird scene.
It was. And the essay says this, while meant to be funny, plays into the idea that femininity is weak or deceitful.
So it's basically saying women are bad.
Yeah, kind of. It fits into this bigger idea that women are manipulative and can't be trusted.
Like saying women can't handle power, so men have to be in control.
Exactly. And that just reinforces a system that holds women back.
Wow, I never thought about that scene like that before. It's crazy how a silly moment can actually be pushing harmful ideas.
It shows how important it is to be critical of what we watch, even something as fun as a Disney movie.
We've definitely uncovered a lot about the villains. It's amazing how complex these animated characters can be.
It really shows the power of storytelling. Even the bad guys can teach us things. And in the last part of our deep dive, we'll look at Hercules' lasting impact and what it means for us today.
I can't wait. This has been so eye-opening.
Me too.
What a journey.
Welcome back. We're wrapping up our deep dive into Hercules. And wow, we've really gone the distance, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
From those clashing inspirations to those complex characters. This movie has so many layers. So many layers, yeah. We've talked about how it mixes superhero stuff, that underdog sports story, even poking fun at celebrity culture, all wrapped up in this mythological world.
And we've seen how it challenges gender roles, but also, maybe accidentally, reinforces some harmful ideas. So where do we land? What are the big takeaways from all this?
Well, I think one thing is clear. Hercules, even with all its quirks and contradictions, is a movie that tries to be different.
It does, yeah.
It takes risks, breaks the mold, gets us talking about important things like gender, power, what it really means to be a hero.
And it does all that while still being a fun Disney movie with amazing visuals and catchy music.
Absolutely. It works on so many levels. Kids can enjoy the adventure, the songs, and adults can pick up on those deeper themes.
It's like a really good dessert. You've got the delicious frosting, but underneath there's a rich, complex filling that adds so much flavor.
I like that. That's what makes Hercules so interesting. It's a movie you can keep coming back to, see something new each time.
It's like one of those optical illusions. You see one image, then you shift your perspective, and bam, a whole new image appears.
Exactly. Art can do that, change how we see things, help us understand the world in new ways, and Hercules definitely does that.
It takes us to this fantasy world,
Yeah.
but it also shows us something about ourselves.
Yeah.
Our struggles, our triumphs, our ability to love and grow.
And that's why it still resonates with people, even after all these years. It speaks to our fascination with myths, our need for connection, helps us find meaning in a world that can feel chaotic.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even when things are tough, we have the power to choose our own path, fight for what's right, make a difference.
And it makes us think about what it means to be a hero. True strength isn't about being physically strong. It's about compassion, selflessness, listening to your heart.
Powerful messages for a Disney movie.
So powerful.
It really shows how talented the filmmakers were. They took this classic myth and made it feel new and relevant.
They entertained us, inspired us, made us think, all in less than 90 minutes.
Pretty amazing. Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Hercules.
I think so, too. We explored the movie's origins, analyzed the themes, and hopefully gave you, our listeners, a new way to look at this Disney classic.
The next time you're humming along to Go the Distance or laughing at Hades, remember that Hercules is more than just a fun movie.
Right.
There's so much to unpack, connections to make, questions to think about.
That's what a true deep dive is all about.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those brains working.
And remember, like the Muses say, being a hero isn't about the glory, it's about the doing.
Well said.
So go out there and be the hero of your own story. We'll be back soon with another deep dive, ready to explore a new topic together. Until then, happy listening.